Hello, everyone. My name is Oleg Hagan, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with LA County Library, and I welcome you to Work Ready Interview with a Handy Ma'am. And now I'd like to tell you about the Work Ready program. Work Ready started in December of 2020 with the purpose of helping people get a job, improve their work situation, and plan a more sustainable career path. We do that in two ways. One, we lend out laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots, breaking down one barrier to applying for a job and getting online training. And two, we provide virtual events just like this one on a range of work-related topics from basics like cover letters, interviews, resumes, to deep dives into various careers and other subjects that will help you succeed at work. And you can see over 50 of those past classes at any time by checking out our work and career playlist on the library's YouTube channel, which I'm going to post in the chat right now. And this Work Ready program is made possible due to funds provided by the American Rescue Plan. And before we get going with today's event, I'd also like to tell you about what we have coming up for you next week, and that is Work Ready, Discover Your Career Path. Are you feeling stuck in making career decisions? Join Armine Kulikin, founder of Career Rise, as she guides you through the career development process in an interactive workshop that will leave you more confident in making career choices. I'm going to go ahead and post that description and the registration link for you in the chat as well. Feel free to sign up for that. And I say feel free because you should feel at leisure, and also because the program is absolutely free, just like all of our library programs. And if you're interested in learning more about library programs, you can go to our website at lacountylibrary.org. On the top right-hand side, you can click the events button and you can see all 85 libraries and the programs that they offer for kids, teens, adults, older adults, as well as our virtual programs, just like this one. And if you're only interested in virtual programs, we have an option on our website for that too. You can hover over that events button and the little drop down will come up. Click the virtual programming link and it'll take you to just our Zoom events. Again, all free for all ages. And now I'd like to, speaking of Kim, I'd like to introduce now our interviewer for today, Kim Zanti. Kim is the founder, director of Catalyst Muse, which she created to channel her optimism for a better world through storytelling, engaged inquiry, and purposeful action. Over the course of the past of her 25-year career as a public benefit development specialist, she strategically communicated values and vision, raising millions of dollars for clients such as Los Angeles County Arts Commission, Get Lit, Words Ignite, Pacific Resident Theater, and many more. Kim then joined Dr. James S. Catterall at the Center for Research on Creativity to further his mission to understand human creativity and the conditions that can promote imaginative approaches to learning, design, and problem solving. As the center's associate director, Kim served as a project coordinator on multiple projects for clients such as the Walt Disney Company, Inner City Arts, Educational Theatre Association, Alameda Office of Education, and the Royal Blind School of Scotland. Kim holds a master's degree in creative studies and a professional certificate in creativity and change leadership from the Center for Applied Imagination, SUNY Buffalo. As a volunteer in her Santa Monica Mountain community, she co-founded the Topanga Authors Group and the Transport Topanga Literary Festival. And with that introduction, I'd like to bring Kim Zanti to our virtual stage. Kim, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Oleg. Thank you so much for that introduction. I need to copy that for other purposes. Oleg and I, this is not our first time working together. In fact, he was the other co-founder of the Topanga Transport Topanga Literary Festival when he was the librarian in our community. And that started a collaborative relationship that has continued on through with the Work Ready program. And we have found people to participate in this program simply by asking questions. and then inviting folks to come and join us. One of them was Colette Vaughn, who you will meet today. We met Colette. I'll give you a little bit of background about how she came to be here today. Oleg and I met her in May on a telephone call after we put out a post for Work Ready Getting into the Trades panelists. So that was held in May to talk to folks about how they might prepare themselves or think about work in trades such as plumbing, electrical work, car mechanics. And with Colette, she had responded to that post very enthusiastically about art installationists and being a handyman, which was very compelling. We had a fantastic conversation, and yet she could not join us due to scheduling. So we decided, okay, let's try and just do an individual interview to talk about her journey as a handyman and art installationist. So a little bit about Colette. She's just shy of 10 years of continuous work as a handyman, doing bread and butter work with power tools and her own knowledge about installing things, not just art, but that led to being an art installationist. And her clientele includes museums, galleries, interior designers, homeowners, and corporate clients such as FedEx. And whether it's corporate residential, indoors or outdoors, Colette has built a business with more than 70% repeat clients, which is quite an accomplishment in a profession in which she had to pave her own way. And she's going to talk to us today about her journey, the challenges and obstacles she's faced and still faces today, and how she meets them to continue to grow as a professional and fall in love with her work over and over. So Colette joins us from Echo Park. Welcome, Colette.
Woo.
There
Thank
Hello.
you. Hey,
Hi.
hello.
All right. Well, as we've talked about, we're going to give the folks who have joined us today through Work Ready an idea of not an idea, but a picture of your journey and how you've moved through the past 10 years, being sort of a multi-hyphenate and being in the trades as a handyman and also specialized as an art installationist. And so
Sure.
I thought to ask you if you would just walk us through a little bit of your background as a handyman and how you came to the profession of art installationist.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that I immediately set out for with a straight path. It was kind of compiled through a lot of different meanderings. So I have a background in events and hospitality. So I have always been client facing and what can I do for you? How do we get it done in the best way? So I basically like the easiest way to go about this for my background was when it started a number of years ago. I was working in a cafe inside a gallery. At that point, I had a pretty diverse background up until that point. But it was my first look at the art space. My background was in music, actually, before the visual art. And I fell in love with it. They had me, help out with the space and with their events. And I got to see the behind the scenes of a really astute gallery, and it was quite compelling for me. That ended after about a year. It was only meant to ever be a year. The space was called Temporary Space. So shortly after that, I had the opportunity to run my own gallery with a friend of mine. We became close friends. We didn't know each other actually until we started working together. But I knew events. I knew how to get people to a space. She had a background in art, and Over time, you know, I kind of took the space over. She had her own stuff going on. So finding people to install, hosting the show, inviting clients, hosting the event, cleaning up the event, installing, uninstalling, cleaning up the walls. So over 2 years, I hosted over 40 exhibitions
Wow.
and 25 pop-ups. So we
Mm.
were doing stuff like every week. It was really wild. So
Wow.
I got very good at it. It wasn't a very good live work balance. I was working like 80, 90 hours a week for very
Yeah.
little
Wow.
money because it's a new gallery, and you know, we just didn't have the sales that we needed for it to be sustainable for me. So we closed the space down, and then I started doing art installation full time. And through that, I also, you know, let my clients know I can do XYZ in addition for you if you need your curtains up or your TV mounted or, you know, your toilet replaced. Just, you know, just funny things like that. But yeah, primarily I've done installation full time since then, and it's been a number of years now.
It's so great. I mean, just the idea of working so much for so little money, but the repetition of
Yeah,
that and
right.
the trial and error of that, really developing your chops. And it
Mhm.
sounds like you really realized you fell in love with it, like you really
Yeah,
enjoyed that work.
yeah.
What really do you love the most about doing this work on the art installations?
Mm. Two things. The two biggest things for me, or maybe three. I love art, and I love how humans express themselves. So seeing what that looks like and what people are gravitating towards. Like everybody's style is a little bit different. Everybody's collection is a little bit different. Sometimes it's family photos, but it's lovely, and these mean something to you. And why is that? So it's like a little bit of that sociology, you know, part for me. I'm very curious about people, and I want to know their inner workings. I love making people happy, and I love spaces and the way that we interact and how we feel about a space. And once we're in an area, it has the power to change our mood and affect
Mm,
us on a
yeah.
deeper level. So if it's inside, outside, I love that for people. So it's that human connection for me, that people pleaser. It really gives me that that
I
stimulus.
love that. It's amazing because you think of all the different skills, and we'll talk a little bit more about this to give people a more specific idea of the skills. But you're using so many parts of your brain and so many parts of your personality and your imagination and everything that interests you. And yet you have these technical skills that you've developed to bring to play. And I think one of the things for everyone listening, you know, as Colette said, it was not a straight line. She did not come into this on a defined path. She carved her own way, and finding out through trial and error what she liked and what really interested her. But we also know about Colette that she had a couple really big potential obstacles and challenges entering into this profession. And one of them that she's going to talk a little bit about for us is being a woman in a traditionally male-dominated profession where you're working with tools and power tools and materials that we sort of mindlessly associate with, maybe not mindlessly, but through just being conditioned to see men with power tools around in their belts and hanging drywall and working with walls and that kind of thing. So I'm going to ask Colette to talk a little bit about that. But also she had a very kind of amazing challenge in working in such a visual field, in that she has been legally blind since she was a child. And so that alone seems like kind of enough to make you turn and run in the opposite direction. But Colette went right for it, and has been rewarded handsomely in her life as a human. She can talk about the money piece if she wants or not, but she has a career. That's what we need to know, that this career was built despite great obstacles and challenges. And so first, Colette, I wanted to ask you, what was kind of your indication coming into this field as a woman that the game was going to be a little bit different for you?
Wow, when I first started, I didn't even realize that this was an actual profession. Like I just started advertising that I could do this skill. And if you have art, I can put it up for you. And so it really didn't occur to me until I was in it a little bit. I've been around a lot of engineers, a lot of builders, so I was already aware that it's predominantly men. And I just checked the statistics, and it's 95.8% of construction, handyman type job is men. It's less than 5% women and other gender. So we're already starting off with a lot against this, just in terms of like people taking you seriously. So I've had so many instances of showing up to a job. And for example, the one that's coming to mind right now, I was installing this beautiful show for an artist in Laguna at this gorgeous hotel right on the beach. And their contractor, like maintenance man, came over and asked me if I wanted to use his drill instead. My drill was better. I said no, and no thank you. But it's just like little microaggressions like that I encounter on on not so much daily basis anymore. It definitely was more in the beginning, as I'm building my confidence up and knowing how to handle these situations and how to present myself. But it definitely still occurs on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. If I'm in like a corporate or some kind of external setting outside of a residential space, it tends to happen a little bit more, just because it's so unexpected to see a lady doing these things. So let's change that. It's not hard. Like but yeah, it's mostly men, and I get confronted about that pretty often. So I've had to make adjustments, like showing up in a more professional way. So streamlining my tool bag setups, having better equipment. I wear a jumpsuit to all of my jobs with some pretty great boots, and I'll do hair and makeup and jewelry, and I will show up with a presence, and that tends to be a little bit more impactful. So people might have reservations about asking me like if I need help, or you think you got this, okay. Like at this point I've done like insane installations, and nobody would dare, but unless you're there.
Well, it
Well,
must.
I'm curious about the tools. So, you've got some nice tools that I'm sure that
Yeah.
it may be second or third generation of things that you've bought over the years, and you use them frequently. So, are tools one of the things that when somebody questions your competence, that you say, "Oh, I got this." Like
Right.
clearly these things are well used, high quality.
Yeah.
Are those is that one of the things that you can point to go like, why are you talking to me about this?
Yeah, it definitely used to. And I'll say, okay, so my very first job, it just stands out so much in my mind. The very first install that I ever did with this mindset of I'm going to be an art preparator or an art installer. So I showed up and I took the bus there because I don't drive, as I'm visually impaired. So I used to bus everywhere, and I Uber and Lyft now, but I used to bus everywhere. And so that was like 2 hours to get to a job, sometimes more. So I would show up with a tiny little tool bag. I had a little telescopic ladder that I could put over my shoulder, so it reached up to like 12 feet. My little DeWalt bag, and just like my crap little drill. And I was telling my dad about this, what I'm trying to do here. And so he was really sweet. He actually gifted me my first like set of like really nice drills. And I've since like used them to death, to the point where I had to buy a new one, which felt really nice, but it was really sweet. And honestly, it really made a huge difference. So like, having better equipment, and I I am frustrated that it made such a difference, because it does make it a little bit harder for people to come into the space if they don't have a lot of money.
Mm.
But it's not impossible, and you can start somewhere and then just work your way up. But it definitely made an impact to where I am now, for sure.
Sorry, Kim, I know you had a question, but there's a question that's in the chat that I want to bring up because I think it's relevant
Sure,
since we're
sure,
talking
sure.
about
Yeah.
tools. How did you get your training learning how to use the tools, um, and do what you do? Because you mentioned that you're kind of self-taught. Does that relate
Mhm.
to both installing art and the tools?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I grew up watching my dad do stuff in the garage, but we, for as, I don't remember ever doing stuff together, like building stuff together. I would love to do that, but we never really did that. So I would just watch him do it. So all of my training is predominantly self-taught. If I don't know how to do something, I'll learn how to do it. There's YouTube videos for everything. So I've watched a lot of videos. I've done a lot of research, looking up best practices. On occasion, I have reached out to other professionals in the space to just, can I buy you a coffee and ask your perspective about, um, what to do in this scenario? Like, I had to, for this law firm, I had to install these huge paintings on a glass window
Mm.
without damaging the glass.
Oh,
So,
nice.
like, what does that even mean? Like, what kind of adhesives work? What kind of, silicone caulking is going to work for me? So I ended up fabricating these panels that I silicone adhered to the window so they can take that off eventually if they move out of the building, but they're still there. So I was terrified of that job. So, I had to ask somebody how to do it. Excuse me. But, I am very self-taught, and I highly recommend just getting a drill and learning a couple basics. I'm happy to give some pointers, but there's videos for everything already.
So you got
That's
that
a
open
question
mindset.
too.
Go
Yeah,
ahead, Kim. Yeah.
the idea of YouTube videos, YouTube University. Everybody goes there, not everybody, but goes there to find things out. And it sounds to me like you're advocating for that, to ask questions, to kind of consider scenarios in your mind, like with the adhesive and the silicone, and what's going to work, what's not going to work, and all the variables. Do you write things down, or do you just kind of work them through in your head and then go for it? Or what is a little bit about your process there?
I have it's kind of just, it depends on the job, really. Yeah, huge advocate for videos. Disclaimer, not everyone knows what they're talking about. So take it with a grain of salt. There's some there's some good channels out there, and for the life of me, the guy is escaping me, but there's some really good programs out there. One person that I really love, and her book just came out, her name is Mercury Stardust, and she's a trans handyman, and I just adore her. She's lovely, and she has a book that just came out, and it's about like little fixes around your apartment that you can do. So
I
that's
need
a great
that book.
start. I ordered it. It's coming out in August. I can't wait, but that's one good resource, and she is amazing. Her videos are excellent. She does tutorials.
Nice.
Really lovely person. She's on Instagram, and just fabulous. But yeah,
And
in
it,
terms of like my process and writing things down, it really just depends on the job. I'll like draw out diagrams. I will go to the site to do site inspections if it's like an outdoor sign installation and I don't want to be surprised the day of with like, oh, there's like a beam behind the concrete that we need to get into, and there's like strapping here. So yeah, it kind of just depends. I In the beginning, when I was doing like measuring, I would write out everything. At this point, I'm pretty proficient, so I don't have to write everything down as much. I still kind of do, but in a very short-handed version of my math. But yeah, when I'm learning how to do something, there's a different process depending on what the job is going to be.
Well, I love too that someone has talked in the chat about how and I'm Linda, that her dad held the flashlight for she held the flashlight for her dad while he
Yeah.
worked on cars. And I used to do the same thing. I also used to shag golf balls while he hit them, but I never learned anything about golf.
Oh,
And it sounds like you had a similar experience where you knew your dad was working in the garage, but you weren't working together. And I think
yeah.
that generationally, hopefully this is changing,
Yeah.
where it's not seen that, okay, she's a girl, so she's going to assist and not learn how to do these things on her own.
Right.
What because and we'll get to talking about the visual impairment, but how would you describe your personality, or the qualities or traits in your personality that got you past some of these, what they may not have been obstacles, but at the beginning they may have, it just may not have ever occurred to you to become your own person with power tools and art?
Mm. I That's kind of tricky. It's kind of tricky to answer. I like to figure things out, and I like to do things myself. Like putting together furniture and things like that. I love it. I love it a lot. When I was a kid, like some of my favorite toys were like building toys. We had like wooden Lincoln logs, and I would like build a cabin, or like Tinker Toys, and you could like build a car, or like Marble Works. So you like build this functional stand, and then you would shoot your marbles down like this contraption that you made. And like I love stuff like that. So I really attribute both of my parents. My mom did a really good job of bringing in these creative thinking toys, um from like Discovery Zone. We had like Mugo blocks, so it was like these huge panels. You could build like an actual car that you could sit in, or we would build like a stand to go sell lemonade on the corner, like these huge plastic panels, like just ridiculous yard toy kind of things. But I love building. In my free time, I watch a lot of like Bob Vila old videos from like the 80s, like This Old House. I'm going
Right.
through all of them, and I love them, especially like the men in like their little shorts. Like I just love it.
There you have
That's
it.
I wasn't that's not what I was expecting to hear.
But you can see like old practices of
Right.
like style and design in building versus
Right.
now. And so
Right.
it's kind of like a crash course into how to do some of this stuff. And they do a pretty decent job of teaching you how to do a lot of work. Like I still would consult a professional if you're trying to build a wall, but you can
Right.
see that like the center beams need to be at 16 inches,
Right.
like just things like that. So I love building. So I think that's really just a part of who I am, like since I was a child. And
Sounds
power
like you
tools are
love
just very
learning too.
like I'd also
Yeah.
just I've always been kind of like prove them wrong, be the girl that proves them wrong. So, getting on a, oh man, okay, so here's a good example of this. So I had a client recently, and in her entryway, it's a 2-story room. So I had to put art on the second story wall, and it was about 20 feet up. And she had different quotes from people, and a guy told her she was going to need scaffolding, and it was going to be like 10 times the amount that I had quoted her. And I come in, and she hired me because I was cheaper, and I am very confident in what I can do. And she liked what I was about. So I came in with a couple ladders and got them up there. Like, no problem. You don't need scaffolding. And he even told her, like, is she going to be able to do it? I don't think she can do it. I'm like, oh, I have to do it now. Like, even if it was going to be hard, it's getting done. And we did it, and it was easy. And looks amazing and beautiful. So she sent him a picture of me up there.
Well,
which is
I
like,
think that's a great example. It's a great example because your personality, you said it, I'm the kind of girl that's like, watch me prove you wrong.
right.
But you were also so confident that she went for you because
Yeah.
you were confident, and I'm sure she liked your ideas and the fact that you were bringing, less stuff into her house
Right.
to complete the job. So
Yeah.
thanks for that. I want to talk a little bit about the visual impairment and how not only as it operates or functions on the job, but getting to the job. You
Yeah.
mentioned that you used to take a bus and you're in Los Angeles, and how did you structure your days around that?
Well, now that I don't take the bus, I can
Right.
do 2 and 3 jobs in a day.
Oh,
If I
nice.
book appropriately. If I can, I like to book people in the same area, but that
Right.
doesn't always quite work out depending on how
Right.
big their job is or what. But yeah, I Lyft an Uber and I bill for it.
And you
So
bill the
my
clients for it.
yeah, I bill for it,
Just
and I
include that
highly
in the price.
recommend doing a travel fee. I don't bill for the time. I only bill what the Uber is going to cost. I would love to get paid for my travel time, but it just gets to be too much, and it's not exactly fair to a client. If you can drive, I would still charge a travel fee for your gas and your car maintenance and your oil changes. I think that's totally appropriate. But yeah, I used to bus everywhere. There was a time when I bused to Ontario and it took me like 3 hours to get.
Ontario.
Yeah,
That's
all
commitment
the
right
way.
there.
And she's amazing. Like the gal, she's like the head of like many regions of Starbucks. And she had a really cool project for me. She had these vintage maps of all the places that she'd been to, like these really old 1800s or whatever maps. And so we did them like offset and like coming off the wall in different places. So they overlapped and it was just really fun. So I was excited to do the project, but it took a long time to get there with all my tools. So I think it really just depends on your dedication to getting there. If somebody's not willing to pay for your Lyft and Uber, it is that 3-hour time going to hurt you? Like, are you willing to do that? And in the beginning of my career, like the first, I think 2 years I was busing, then I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna Uber and I'm gonna see if people pay for it, and they did. So that's what we do now.
It's kind
But
of like the cost benefit of
yeah,
for you internally, but also for them. Am I going to
right.
pay someone to take an Uber to get here to do this gig? So
right. And I don't tell them I'm taking an Uber. Most of my clients don't know that I'm visually impaired. Some of them do.
That was one
Some
my
of them do.
questions.
If we're having like a good conversation and we're talking and it's appropriate to mention, and I've already done some work, so they're like, okay, so you can do it. Then I will let some people know, but I don't tell everybody. And I have gotten discriminated against before. I had applied to Gander and White. It's a very high-end art installation and shipping, like antiquity shipping company, and they did not hire me. Obviously I can't prove that it was a visual impairment, but because of my background, like I was excellent for the job. Like I've had so much experience at this point and I didn't get it. And I'm fairly certain that it's because of my visual impairment.
And
so
did
I
you not
tell
get an
everybody.
interview either? No interview?
I did have an interview, and that's when I told him. It was at the end of the interview, and we had been getting along and asking a lot of questions. And so they were like, I knew that I was going to get that job until I said that, and his demeanor completely changed. So you can't prove that legally, but I know that that's what it was about. But it ended up being great because I work for myself and I make way more money doing it for myself than I would have there, like 3 times the amount.
And talk a little bit about that as far as, again, for women, I think it's harder when you're not freelance, but you're independent. I
Right.
guess in a way you are freelance, but you're independent.
Mhm.
You run the show, you run
Mhm.
your work schedule, and you charge commensurate with your experience and your skill level.
Mhm.
Have you had to defend that in any way, or
Yeah.
how has that worked? Yeah.
Yeah. I've had experiences where the job was decided on, the rate was agreed upon, the travel fee was agreed upon, materials fees, everything was agreed upon. I came, did the job, everything was done, and then she wanted discounts.
Oh. Mm.
Um and yeah, I've had people not hire me because they didn't want to pay a travel fee, and that's fine. I have enough work to where people want me and they will pay it.
So
So
negotiation is a skill that's very valuable to have as
a
well.
little bit, a little
Yeah.
bit, and just understanding what your worth is and what your value is,
Right.
and telling yourself, I am not willing to take a hit because I'm not in a oh God, what's the word? I don't need it. I mean, I need it, but I'm not desperate for it.
Right.
I'm
Right.
not going to lower myself and debase myself for you to save a little extra money because you don't understand the value that I'm bringing. I understand the value. And if you're not willing to pay it, then you're not my client. And that's fine. I don't need everybody. If you want to hire a handyman that's going to put 15 holes in your walls, he's not going to give you an opinion about where something should go. He's not going to bring in the design element that I bring. He's not going to bring in, a lot of the skills that I'm bringing to the table. There was
Seems
one
like
client that I had, and this guy that she was seeing was a plumber, and he tried to install this huge mirror on her stairwell landing.
Mm.
And he made holes like this big in her
Wow.
walls trying to find a stud. And then he didn't even basically the mirror fell off and it almost killed her. And she's this tiny little woman. And I come in and fix it, filled the holes, patched the holes and all of that. But just like, that's what happens when you don't pay a
Wow.
professional to do it.
it seems like the value you were talking about earlier, every time you mentioned, I remember I did this job and it had this and this and this, and one would say like, oh, all it is, all I have to do is mount this mirror, or all I have to do is put up some art. But in fact, the value comes from that it's not just that it's the design experience, it's the,
Mhm.
it's the all of the intermediate steps of getting there, but also that art requires a special, special experience, special skills, because it's not always just a painting. But even if it is just a painting, there's, specific knowledge about how to mount it and how to
Yeah.
make it look good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially
Exactly.
in a space. You're not, you're working with volume, you're working with height, and that makes a big difference. I've worked in galleries where the gallerist or the preparator was like paintings hung very high.
Ugh.
And
Well,
other people did not like that. And so there's the gallery style, which is at eye level and straight across. And but having that sensitivity to your client and what they're going to be comfortable
right.
living with or working with. And it sounds like, as I mentioned in the introduction, that you have a very high percentage of repeat business. So that speaks
Yeah.
to your ability to read your clients and to work with them.
Yeah. Repeat and referral.
Nice.
It's like 73% repeat and referral.
Nice.
I'm getting a lot of referrals lately, which I really appreciate because I don't have to pay for that, the advertising for those. And that's great for a independent business owner. But yeah, in terms of like what I bring to the table, it's, earthquake, hanging, safety. I can and do provide, along with a number of other other services.
Can we
And
talk about that?
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Talk about the how to build that business, because you at this point you're at 73%, Colette, of
Mhm.
referral business, but it's been 10 years. So in the beginning and in that to build up that referral business, what was the process of doing that? What are some steps you took?
Sure. So when I first started advertising online, I needed pictures of work that I had done. So I had photos of like the gallery installs that I did, photos of my own house that I did. I would ask friends and neighbors, like, hey, can I come do this for you and take a picture so I can use it to, you know, to advertise? Like, are you comfortable with me using this photo? So in the beginning, it's people that I can offer you this service. Can I do this for free? Or, are you willing to do, just give me a tip or something just to get started so you have reviews. Um, it helps customers who don't know you and don't know your business, if you are just coming in, if they can see what you have to offer. So it's not just like your word for it, it's other people's, and that helps a lot. Um, the more reviews, the better. Try not to do just, family with the same last name. Try and use other people's last name. But yeah, definitely get a little cluster of a tiny portfolio that you can start with so you can show, this is what I do, this is what I can offer, and then just build from there. Take pictures of every job, take videos if they allow it. That kind of stuff helped me a lot. I do take photos of every job that I do, and ask your client if it's okay to post or not, because some of them don't want you to. If it's their car or their nails or whatever, whatever you're trying to do, always get permission to post or not, but take photos and document every single thing that you've done. I've had clients, so since I've been doing this for so long, I have a lot of clients at this point who have moved, and they will call me back. And I have had people who have moved 3 and 4 times now. And I remember, like, one of the first guys that this happened with, I took photos of his space. He asked me to come back, and I pulled up the pictures and was talking, just to get familiar with the work. And so when I was at his new place talking about, oh, we had this there, or this was placed there, he's like, wow, you have a great memory. And like, I'm not going to tell you my secret. You can just be impressed with me. But people love that kind of stuff. And it's that kind of thing that, like, that personalization with your client, little notes with your clients in their contacts, like, they talked about this maybe while I was there. So when I'm there, I can ask them about, like, hey, how is this situation? Or how's your job at blah, blah, blah? Like, are you still working there? Are you enjoying it? So it's like these little things that really make it special for people. If you want to have repeat and referrals, that's the best way that I've found to be personal with your people. Be professional. Some people are very casual. Some people are very, very professional, like top tier. You kind of have to sort it out. But the more connected you can be with your clients, the more they are going to want you specifically to come back, rather than just anyone to come and do whatever job they need done. That's helpful.
Yeah. Do you have a website, Colette? I wanted to say, if we have a website address, to put that in the chat to share that.
Yeah.
And,
I'll put it in there. I will mention that I'm revamping my business website. So it's just a construction page, the landing page. So there isn't really a good visual.
Oh, well, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but we can update people.
Good one. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one. I'll actually, Oleg, if you want to put it in there.
Yeah. What's the URL?
Yeah, it's just laupgallery.com.
Oh yeah, I'll put it in there.
Yep.
Yep.
And,
And I'll put it in the follow-up email too.
And yeah, and also hopefully we can get some links to the YouTube videos you mentioned that you thought were really good. And when a follow-up email goes out to the participants today.
Yeah. I'll do that in the follow-up. I'll put Mercury in there too. She's just so lovely.
Yes.
Really happy. I had never heard anyone else say handyman before, and I've been using that term for a while. And I know it's like a growing thing in just in the world, but like I was so happy that she uses that term too.
Oh, and that, what was her name again? Stardust?
Mercury
Mercury
Stardust.
Stardust. And
Yeah.
is that where you were inspired to use ma'am, handy ma'am?
No, I've been using handyman for years.
Oh,
And
cool.
I just recently discovered her this year, a couple months back, maybe like this spring. I started following her, but she does a lot more traditional handyman stuff, whereas my specialty is more in like the art and like home decor, I guess you could say, because now I do like mirrors every day and curtain rods and TVs, so I do a lot of home installation stuff. But she's more of a traditional handyman across the board, like knocking down a wall or changing electrical, or I can change a sink for you, and I can like put in new faucets and things like that. But she's a lot more hardcore. But I really love what she has to say about like tips and tricks for people to do small things around the house.
Yeah,
and feel
really
empowered,
important.
emboldened to do it, because there's so many clients that I come to and they're like, I've never held a drill before, so I'll like do a little, let me show you how to do this, because I don't need to come back so you can hang up this one little thing. It's just one screw. You can do it. Let me teach you how to do it. So I do like little classes and lessons with that.
That's so good
too.
And so do you do that on a regular basis where if folks wanted to get in touch with you to learn from you, they could do that as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
They can.
Okay,
We'll
that's good.
include your contact information
Yeah, for sure.
in the follow-up email, and people can get in touch.
Yeah, learn how to hang a picture, or how to drill, or
How
build
not to be afraid of math. Were you good at math when you were a child?
Yeah. I hated it. I was like, I'm never going to use any of this. I was like, I was a musician, I was an artist, so like what am I gonna use math for? And now here I am, like every day it's like fractional math.
Well, it's like, it's students who
every
ask,
day.
like, what am I use it for? There you go.
There you go.
Every day.
I use it every day.
And I also wonder because, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No.
I wanted to ask, it's you kind of you bridge both an arena where it is handyman. You can do kind of small jobs for whatever people need you to do, but you also have a specialty as a preparator or installationist in the art world. And I thought for folks who are listening in, if you talked a little bit about some of the different types of professions that you interact with using their titles, so people have a sense of, okay, well, what if I want to be that? Who do I go talk to? Or what's my potential in that world?
Yes. So Cadogan Tate is a pretty good spot to look into. They do the same kind of thing, art preparator. They do installation, shipping, packing, hauling, moving around, all of that. They have a pretty good entry program. I don't know if they have the best employee practices from what I've heard, but if you want to learn in a space that is very proficient, that's a good place to look into. So let's see, entry place, if you want, finding a mentor is honestly the best place to start. Going around and finding a gallery and saying, can I intern for you? And you don't have to pay me, but I just want to get some practice and like learn something. There are a number of people who are willing to let you follow them around. You might not do anything right away, but they will let you like follow them so you can at least see what's going on. Shipping and handling is probably a good place to start. You can understand how to pick up a piece out of a box. Like, this sounds really
Right.
silly, but there are so many things that you have to be so careful of. So it's like the white glove service. Like, you can't touch things incorrectly. Like, the oils from your fingers can get on certain things, so you have to have gloves. So that's a good place to start. Any kind of it. Come to my class.
Okay,
You want
I
to,
will.
want to
I
start.
need help
I
with
feel like
power
that's gonna
tools.
be easy.
I do
But
not
yeah,
have skills with power tools.
okay. So also, there's some really low entry power tools. Like, what is it? I think it's Ryobi, or
Ryobi is
Mhm.
that's the,
they have a pretty good entry level um tool set. Everyone needs a tool set. You need a drill, you need drill bits, you need a hammer, you need screwdrivers, you need pliers, Allen wrenches, maybe, because so many things are using like the Allen wrench system type of bolts and things. Everyone needs a toolkit. Just every apartment, you're going to need a drill, you're going to need a screwdriver. Everyone just buy a small one. They have little small kits. Get a get a crappy piece of wood
we're
and
okay.
and some nails.
Reframe.
Adults
Practice.
here.
You don't have to it doesn't have, just get some screws and start drilling them into some wood. Like, there's, just go practice a little bit. It's really
Yeah.
easy. Just go to Home Depot and grab a scrap and,
Well, that I
and do some testing.
appreciate that thought, because I thought one day, well, I'm just going to screw it in myself. And I did. And I went on the other side of the wall, and oh, the screw is coming out of the other side of the wall
Oh
because
no.
I used a screw that was too long for that piece of wood. Okay. So you learn that stuff as you
Right.
go.
Right.
And I love the idea of the mentor, because especially
Yeah.
for people who learn by through modeling, like
Yeah.
watching someone else do it first. Um, but and the idea of the toolkit, which is something in
Mhm.
education that is used all the time, sort of metaphorically, but also here it's a very concrete thing. It's a very real
Yeah.
thing. Get a
Yeah.
toolkit, and if you're not sure how to use the tools, just start playing, just start practicing, find a mentor,
Or
or
a video. Or a
or a
video.
video,
Yeah.
right?
You will
What
learn watch some Bob Vila.
that for some folks that might be like babu.
Yeah.
um
Inspired like Home Improvement with Tim Allen, and actually he makes a bunch of appearances on there. But yeah, Home Improvement was a spoof in like the 90s, early 2000s of Bob Vila's show, and he was the first Home Improvement show,
mm,
and he's still doing videos.
He is.
wow.
He's still doing videos, and he's amazing. And he has a great intern program. He has a program for kids to learn how to do stuff. It's very educational. So it's funny, and it's a time capsule, but I love that. Bob Riley is a great contractor from Boston, and
Okay.
various.
Did you say Bob Riley?
Bob Riley, yeah,
Okay, and that
is
he's
one of Bob
different.
Vila's contractors that make
Okay,
a number of appearances.
cool.
But they teach you a lot, and they really do a pretty good job of like teaching you how to do stuff. And so when they have other contractors coming into the house, they will teach you
Right.
how to do caulking, or how to put in a window, or like
That's putting in a window.
yeah.
That's
But
not trivial.
I
No.
don't put in a window yourself. Have somebody else do it.
That's
But if
pretty,
you need to do
it's
the
pretty
caulking,
serious.
then it's easy. You need 2 tools to do it. It's easy. Scrape it all out, and then you get your bead gun, and then do the edge. Yeah.
And then that skill transfers to decorating a cake.
Yeah,
It's
Because you
truly, just don't mix up what you're decorating with.
Oh my
Exactly. Oh,
God,
this
yeah,
tastes funny, Mom. What is
cake
that?
is disgusting.
Well, Colette, we're probably going to open it up to questions soon, but I wanted to ask you, in your work, what's something, or maybe the most valuable thing to you as a person that you've learned about yourself in doing this work?
That I am capable of a lot of things that I didn't think I could do.
Mm.
Like the fact that I don't have a boss is really wild. You know, I just, I am capable of learning anything that I need to learn to get anything done. And I feel pretty fearless. It's brought a lot of confidence and empowerment. And when I was flown out to Miami to do Scope, it's a huge fair during Art Basel. And I was there for a week, and then doing the job for the gallery, and then being hired specifically from another gallery and Scope themselves to do jobs for them because they saw what I did, was it for me. And I knew that I did this myself, with very limited help from other people. And what else can I do? So,
Right.
being a woman or being extremely visually impaired, with a degenerative eye disease. Like, I don't know if I mentioned that, but it gets worse every year. So at this point, it's like, it's really ridiculous that I'm doing this job. Despite these things that might be challenges, I can overcome that. And it really took a lot of fear out of the picture. It took a lot of, fear of the unknown, specifically,
Right,
like
right.
what, traveling alone, getting a hotel, all of that. I can do any of that. And I can encourage other people that is also possible.
And do you mentor other people?
Hmm. I do. I mentor artists a lot, specifically about how to do shows. I do a lot of artist mentoring, but in terms of like art preparator, I have taught a lot of people. I hire a lot of people too for the bigger jobs, because I'm not, some of them are just too big for one person. So I have hired tons of people. And I'm about to expand the business into like plants and gardening, which I'm really excited about, with a few partners, and
Oh,
have like a full lady team.
that's
So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I do a lot of mentorship. And if somebody else wants to get into this space, if they want to possibly join the company, if they want to learn how to do this, then yeah, there's also mentorship available. It's very limited, because I don't have unlimited time.
right.
But yeah, depending on who and for what, there is some mentorship options there.
Super. Well, how are we doing, Oleg, on time?
We're doing well. I mean, we have a few questions that we can take here from our audience. And if you're out there and you have more questions, put them in the Q&A, put them in the chat, and we'll toss them up to Colette. So the first question is, do you offer virtual classes?
I can, yeah,
There we go.
totally. Yep. It's
Yep.
a little tricky. Like if it's something where it's like more of a demo, that is probably more in line with the virtual, because I can't necessarily see what you're doing. And then you have to like buy all your own stuff. Like if you have like drills and you want to do like a one-on-one, like maybe we could do something like that. I haven't done a virtual with like my tools and like you have your own stuff. I haven't done that, but I could definitely figure out how to do that. But I think if it's more of like a demo, I think that might be easier.
Mhm.
Like a how to.
Cool.
You can ask me questions.
So basically just get in touch.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Let's figure it out.
Yep. And the next question is, do you screen people? Have you ever felt scared to go into somebody's house?
Oh,
That's a good
I
question.
probably should. I don't screen people. I have only been in a situation once. Well, okay, so my very first client ever of all time did, it was weird. Like he had an undershirt on, but he took his button up off, and it made me feel a little weird and uncomfortable. But I'm also like, I'm very buff and I'm taller for a lady. Like I'm 5'7". So physically I don't feel uncomfortable that often. I'm wielding a drill and a hammer, so come at me. Like
That's what I was thinking. You had a hammer in your hand.
like you want to do something, like what's up? There was only one outside of that, and it was, it happened and then it was over, whatever. He put a different shirt on, okay, but like you should have done that in your room. Aside from that instance, there was only ever one time where I felt uncomfortable. And honestly, the man was in a really traumatic state. He had just lost his wife, and I looked like his wife, and he wanted to, give me a gift that was hers. And like, he just was obviously mentally distressed, but I felt a little trapped because I was like hanging stuff in his bedroom, and like, he like came over and like wanted to give me this. And it was like, oh, this is totally inappropriate. Like, please back up. But, he like cried, and he was very distressed. So aside from that, like, no, I've never felt uncomfortable going into people's homes. I do think that if you are uncomfortable, bring somebody with you for sure. I probably should have more often than at this point, like, no, I don't feel weird, but I do recommend bringing a second person with you if you can. Because you don't know whose house you're going into, and you don't know what situation is going to be waiting for you in there. And it can be really scary. Always make sure that somebody knows where you're at. Make sure you have location settings on your phone. If you're uncomfortable going in, record a video, be on a video call or FaceTime or a Zoom or something with somebody until you're there and you're like, okay, this is okay. Always have a backup so you're not stranded and left alone, because that is something that I've talked to other people about. And I tend to be a little bit more cavalier about those types of things, but I do recommend being a bit more safe, especially if you're smaller in musculature or size or something like that. Just like, also, I have a taser and I have pepper spray, and they are on my person at all times. So make sure, you have safety steps in place.
I'm just going to add to that, Oleg. And it was a great question, because you are going into people's homes. Businesses, maybe not so much of a concern, but if you have to go after hours, my sister is a real estate agent, and one of her safety measures is you always have access to a door. You're always positioned in the room where you're facing a door. You don't have your back to a door. Now, if you're up on a ladder, that you can't control that, but at least you can think in terms of your path to the door, getting off the ladder. So a little bit of visualization about where you are in a room, how you're positioned to the door and to the person or people that are in the room with you.
I also I never take my shoes off. I have shoe booty covers. Don't take your shoes off. Have appropriate work shoes, or if you're in tennis shoes, whatever, if you need to run and whatever. For my particular job, I'm like, my back is to the door 99% of the time. And there's probably many instances where something real crazy could have happened. But if that's the case and you're worried about it, bring somebody with you, and give them a little bit of money for their time. Factor that into whatever rate you're going to do.
And also some training, physical, protection. I know there's a word for that, but
self-defense.
Self-defense. Thank you.
Oh my God, there's so many like places you can go. Like most, there's tons, especially in Los Angeles. There's a really great dojo down the street in Echo Park, and he does self-defense for women specifically. But those are all over Los Angeles. So take a couple classes, get comfortable with like getting out of a situation, like if somebody comes and bears hugs you, you know, like how do you
Right.
elbow them, or
Right.
so there's a number of practices that you can do so you can feel more safe if you're alone or with somebody. But low key entry point would be to get a little taser or some pepper spray, so you can do
Okay.
stuff. There's
That's
also
all good.
that have a little knife. There's like a necklace that has a pull out knife.
Ooh,
Things
stiletto.
like that don't look like it's some kind of big bulky pepper spray in your
Right.
pocket. So if you want a little bit safe, less conspicuous kind of thing. Yeah, but just always make sure that somebody knows where you're going and let them know I'm going in, I'm leaving. So do a check-in. So if you haven't heard back from me in an hour or 2 hours or whatever, there's steps in place. Especially lately, like people are going crazy. Like after the pandemic, people are going nuts. Like you can see it on the roads, you can see it on the news, like just
Yeah.
crazier things are happening. So keep that in mind. Always keep safety in mind for sure.
That was a good question.
Yep. Sure was.
Yeah, really good
And
question.
thank you for the answer. I mean, thank you for
Yeah.
the really an all-around answer for that.
Yeah.
So the next question is, I'm going to just read it in full. Hi there, I'm looking into a home staging prop styling outside of my current career. However, at the moment, I'm possibly looking into gigs, project-based work for home staging prop styling. Any tips for pursuing side gigs while maintaining a full-time job?
Yes. Okay. So when did I ever have a job while I did this? No. Basically, you want to work around your schedule. Is the question more like how to find those jobs, or is it kind of more of general, like
I think it's
any
more
for the
like,
situation?
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it's specifically, if it matters specifically for
Okay.
prop styling. I think it's more
Okay.
just, how do you balance those two?
Yeah. So also, and balancing a full-time job on top of like a second job and your life outside of both of those things, family, partner, children, yourself. The most important thing that I can recommend is make sure that however much time you put into this, you still leave time for yourself, whether that's working out. I'm going to cook myself a good meal. I'm going to eat healthy. You have to have time for yourself or you're going to have burnout quickly. So balancing, it really just depends on what the job is going to need from you
Right.
and how much time you're willing to put into it. So, for example, when I was at the gallery and doing 90 hours a week, I didn't have time to put into my boyfriend, now husband. I didn't have time to have any kind of relationships outside of that space. So, all of my relationships were inside the gallery, and they were very superficial relationships because I had something to offer people. So just make sure that you leave time for yourself and that you're taking care of yourself, and then put in whatever time you want. If you want to hustle and you want to say, we're going to work 40 hours at 35, 40 hours at my full-time job, then I'm going to do 10 hours of work for 2 hours a day every day and then 5 hours on the weekend. That's completely up to you, because if you are more passionate about the staging or whatever other job, if this is for anybody, if you're more passionate about that than your job and you want to get out, like the point of that is to move that to the career and like leave
Right.
the job. How much hustle do you want to put in?
Right.
You can put in as much time as you want, but save time for yourself. And then in terms of like getting clients for those types of things, I would market online. I would also, like, if you have access to furniture, or if you don't, I would start making connections with these people that have the furniture, like a furniture company or a warehouse or partner up with like an antiques dealer or, you know, someplace like that, say, hey, can I use this to stage? And then they might buy it. Like, you can be as creative as you want in terms of your success and like what kind of partnerships you want. But the best thing is make connections with other people, because it's really hard to do stuff on your own. So, you know, what do you need? Who's going to give it to you? And then what can you offer them in exchange? So yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of that,
Yeah.
somebody had asked, what are the best skills you need, or what do people hire you for the most in terms of like specific skills that you have?
I would say that I get hired new clients based on my art placement and art direction of their house, as well as gallery walls. I do gallery wall. So basically I have a whole wall and here's all this art and just put it all up in a really nice way. So I get hired a lot for that. But you also have to understand, like, is the client more type A and linear, or are they a little bit more whimsical? What does the space look like? What is the art itself? So there's a lot of little bullet points that are a factor for these things. But yeah, gallery walls are probably the most common things that I do, aside from like, I just moved and I have 100 pieces of art and photos and I don't know where to put any of that. So I do a lot of that as well. So a lot of like entire art direction, and then gallery walls are probably the top two.
Yeah, you had talked about it earlier, to be able to kind of almost profile your clients. You know, somebody's type A, somebody's type B, kind of what do they need from you?
Yeah.
You know, how much information they're going to give you, how much they need from you, and kind of bring those things together to provide them the service that they need, that they may not be able to state that they need, but you can kind of see that how much of your expertise you can give them.
Yeah.
I guess that's also, we're talking about the value that you bring, you know,
Yeah.
specific knowledge with art, but also being able
Yeah.
to suss out what somebody needs.
Yeah. I can nail down a client in the first 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. And sometimes it's just like, okay, I know who you are. I see your house. I know who you are. I mean, yeah, and it just like, so that comes like, I had probably like, I don't know, 13, 15 years of hospitality. So I can spot people right away. Like, I know, and you just ask questions if you don't know. Like, do you tend to like clean lines? Are you a minimalist? Are you a maximalist? Do you want no inch of wall left? Like, you know, if do you like asymmetry? Some people are really bothered by asymmetrical shapes and patterns and really need things to be like even keeled across the board. So yeah, I think asking questions, if that's not a skill that you have in the beginning, definitely learn it. And that's across the board for like anything, like makeup, nails, fashion design, interior design, car painting,
Library work.
you know.
Library work.
Like what kind
People ask us questions a lot. But
yeah.
So then the final question I have here, and this is a really down to earth kind of nitty gritty question. How do people pay? How do you get people to pay you? Do you ask for payment up front? And I'm actually curious, like, do you use like Zelle? Then like, how do you actually, how do they cash, you know?
Yeah. So I always have the rate established up front. Sometimes it's an hourly plus travel plus materials. Most of my material costs are like screws, nails, picture hangers, and like mounting putty. So those types of things I pay for out of my rate. I'm not going to charge extra for those. That's just tools of the job. But if it's more intense hardware, or like if I have to buy a wall cleat, or if I have to fabricate something, then I will bill for it. And so all of those prices are talked about in advance. I have, in the beginning, I did not have payment up front. I still pretty much don't. if there's like building costs associated, like if I'm going to do canvas stretching for you and I need to go to Home Depot and buy this wood and put it together, or a stretcher kit, whatever, I will bill for the materials in advance. I predominantly get paid after the job. If it's a multiple day job, I sometimes will get paid per day. It really just depends on how big the job is. Like, I don't want to have an $800 day, 3 times paid at the end. Like, I'll have payment at the end of the day. So I have contracts for people. They put a card on file. They don't have to pay for the card, pay with the card, but just a card on file. If the job is going to be pretty big, I started doing a deposit, but that is credited to the overall amount. And then I also started doing a booking fee that's also credited towards the amount. But if you have to cancel, it's a non-refundable. Like, if you have to cancel with like less than 48 hours notice, you don't get that deposit back. Most of the time I do. It's like, something happened with my child and I have to cancel. So I usually do let them have their money back, or like they can use it for the next job. But those are just the relationships that I have with my clients. So you can do all of that, whatever's comfortable for you. What works for me might not work for everybody else. So there aren't any rules. It's my business. It's your business. So you can do whatever you want that's legal. You know what I mean? I would highly recommend having a contract with people. Like, these are the terms of the job. This is what we agreed upon. It will help you to stay, if anything were to ever happen and somebody starts like, I'm not going to pay you, that way you're protected. Like, you have to protect yourself. There are people who are going to want to get stuff from you for free. There's people that aren't going to want to pay you. Okay. I'll tell you a story about what happened to me. So during the pandemic, I had to get a little bit creative during the winter, not this last season, but the season before. So I was offering holiday lighting decoration, which I love anyway. I love lights. I love Christmas time. So I was doing holiday lighting and it was so exciting, but those clients were way worse, hands down, than any of my art install clients. They wanted free work. They wanted free lights. They wanted free clips. There was one job that it's really crazy. So I had to do his Christmas tree, and it was a 15-foot tree. And I found the tree, bought it for him with my husband's credit card. And he didn't want to pay me for half of the job. And I was out a ton of money. And he had all of the decorations and the lights and like everything like happened so late in the season that it was really like, the whole thing was a mess. But I didn't have a formal contract with him, and I didn't have a credit card on file. And ultimately he got out of the job without paying me $7,000 that he owed me.
Jeez.
Or not thousand, sorry, 700.
I mean, 7,000 is a lot. 700 is a lot too.
Not, oh God, no, that's not even
Not
right.
when you buy the tree too. A 15-foot tree.
He paid me less than half. He paid me less than half than what he owed me, and it was a substantial amount less. So that was a job where I had to hire somebody to help with the job. There was the tree delivery and like the pickup and like all this stuff. So basically I didn't get paid for any of my labor at all. And there were hours like shopping for decorations. There was hours for trying to find lights somewhere, because it's like so late in the season, like everybody was sold out of everything everywhere. And it was like this huge tree. So tiny little ornaments like looked ridiculous on it. He wanted like big, like corporate centerpiece tree. I'm like, well, people buy this stuff in August and you're
Yeah.
having me do it in December. So it was really wild. So just protect yourself, have a contract on file, have a credit card on file, so that doesn't happen to you. It will
Good
never happen
advice.
to you again. It happens one time and then you learn from your mistakes. But like,
Right.
I just never imagined that, especially during holiday season, someone's going to, pardon my language, dick you around.
So you've
Right.
learned, I mean, that's so important that you've learned this stuff through hard experience, and
Yeah,
now you're sharing it with the
yeah,
people that are in the
yeah.
audience, and they can now
Learn from,
take your experience and, you know,
yeah,
Right.
up their
yeah.
game.
Learn from my mistake. Don't let it happen to you. Contracts,
Contracts.
contracts with everybody. At
Kim,
least a
I think
card.
you had one more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want, thank you for that, Colette. I wanted to add, to go back to the question about staging and prop
Mhm.
staging, home staging, prop staging. And it seemed to me that your description earlier of going to your family members, everybody lives in a home or an apartment where you might be able to say, hey, I'd like to, if could I stage this room for you, see if you like it?
Yeah.
Take a picture of it, do a before and after.
Yeah.
Work from your close inner circle, as you were talking before.
Yeah.
Family is a great place to start, people you
Yeah.
work with. And so that you're not out money and you're
Mhm.
not, you're doing it in such a way that it is a side gig and you're developing your portfolio. I think you said
Mhm.
that earlier about developing a small portfolio that
Mhm.
is evidence of what you do and how you do it, and your style. And I just want to add that, like going back to some things you said earlier.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And honestly, family, they're not going to write you a bad review if they don't like what you did.
right,
So it's a really safe place to start.
right. Very
Um,
good. Yeah.
yeah. Like, hey, mom, if you buy the paint, I will repaint your living room and stage it. And if you don't like it, we'll paint it back, or, you can pick the color and, whatever
Right,
works. Like, I
right.
don't know, but, let
Well,
me
and you can
move
also do that in
further.
your own home.
Yeah.
Like you could do that to your own house and
Right.
make your husband or your partner or your child the one who says, oh my gosh, I love what you did here.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
use testimonials, I never use full names. I always use first name and last
Good.
initial. So you don't have to, and it's still honest as long as and of course, as Colette said, your family's not going to give you a bad review, but they're also not going to, you hope, not going to say something that they really don't mean. So,
Right.
and if it's a little over the top, that's okay too.
Yeah.
So that's the only other thing I wanted to add. But I really appreciate the chance to talk to you and learn from you, not only for the audience, the work ready audience, but as a woman who has faced challenges with power tools and really just having confidence to use them and to do things around the house. So you've shared a lot of great resources, a lot of great ways to think about things and to approach things, not only practically and safety wise, but just in terms of kind of, digging into yourself to find what it is that you really like and love and feel passionate about, and to find where your limits are and where they're not, to go beyond them. So
Yeah.
it's been very instructive, and so thank you so much.
Good. I've got a couple other little tips of advice.
Yes.
Just things that didn't come up yet. First recommendation, don't overcharge people. They will hire you back if they feel like they got a good deal. Even if you're like, generally it'd be this much, but for you, I'll do blah, blah, blah.
Right.
If you go over, so if it's like an hourly job and you go over 15 minutes, give them the 15 minutes, like give them the half hour, like, we were talking throughout the appointment, so just be kind to people. If you treat your clients well, they generally will treat you well. Um, keep a record of every job that you do. Make a spreadsheet early and plug everything in. So when people ask you in the future, how long is blah, blah, blah going to be, and it's going to cost X amount, if you can see other jobs that you've done and it's taken this much time and I charge this amount, then you can start getting better about your quotes later on. So giving people upfront quotes is really helpful. Always keep track of what you charged people, because if they hire you again and your rates have changed, like I keep all of my old clients at the rate at which they hired me, even if my rates have grown. It's just a courteous thing to do. If it, you can also tell people. So I know like my hairstylist friends, they will tell people, hey, next year I'm raising my rate. That's fine. Prices go up and that's okay. But like for me, I keep people at the same rate, especially if they are giving you referrals. I will really honor the very first rate at which we worked together at, despite inflation, because I appreciate you as a client and I'm not going to raise your rate. So just little things like that. Just find personal ways for you to connect with people. There was, where did I see this? I think my husband told me about this, but like when you leave a job, if you're a plumber, there's this guy that left a little rubber ducky at places where he worked, and they had his
Nice.
business information on it. And I just thought that was so cute. So little ways to be personable and special, and a little cute or a little funky, like just, it's not expected. Those little things go a long way for people. We're all just trying to be good to each other. And if you can leave a place better than how you found it, excellent. And then my last bit, my mom will appreciate. She gave me this quote. She would say this all growing up, and it really is a mental reminder for me. But she would always tell me and my sister, find solutions, not excuses. So if something's challenging and you don't know how to do it, learn how to do it, or get creative and find a solution for it. And that has helped me a lot throughout my career and my life. So think about that a little bit before you complain or you get frustrated. Be like, okay, I don't know the solution yet. That doesn't mean there isn't one out there. I will find how to do it. Because like when I did that installation on the glass on the windows, without being able to drill into it, it didn't work like 3 or 4 times. Like the silicone didn't cure and just dripped down the whole window. Like I went back like 3 or 4 times, and it needs to set overnight. And so you would leave like, okay, is this going to be the time? No. And you have to do it a few times, and then finally it worked. So even if you make a mistake, own it. Nobody's perfect. You have to make it right. So don't charge people to come back to fix something. Find a solution, like, oh, it's not working. What can I do differently? But the more you do that, and the more that people see that you're willing to do it right, then they will call you back. So the law firm that I did that, they've had me come back, I don't know how many times now.
Oh, wow. That's a great story.
And so, even though I am very confident and I researched all of that and I asked other professionals, what do you recommend? It still went wrong. So that happens sometimes, but that's okay. Just do a good job at making it right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Kim, for all your questions. Thank you for the folks out there for all your questions. And especially thank you, Colette, for leaving our virtual space here better than you found it. Very much appreciated. We do have a post-event survey for the folks out there, so you can give us your feedback, what you liked about the program, what you didn't like, how we could do better, and subjects we could cover in the future. I'm going to post that post-event survey in the chat. And with that, once again, thank you all, and we'll see you next time.